Alright, the Eagles were back at practice, although a couple guys weren't, like Mekhi Becton, but thankfully there's no reason to worry. However, Kenny Pickett is losing reps to Tanner McKee with a legit competition brewing. Plus, with wide receiver 3 up for grabs, Johnny Wilson might just go take it, as he's got the backing from Jalen Hurts, Smitty, and others for his play. Meanwhile, Bryce Huff is showing frustration, yet the D-line's been promising. And Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is stealing reps, so what does that mean for the linebackers? Let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Okay, first off, congrats to Liam for winning 2 Eagles tickets to any regular season game of their choice during the last live stream, and also to Chris for winning the other 2, which, as y'all know, there's lots of other giveaways coming soon, so make sure to hit that sub button so that you don't miss out. Okay, so let's start with the Eagles waiving tight end Castles on Saturday after the undrafted free agent got injured on this play at live practice. And obviously wishing him a speedy recovery, but we'll see if he ends up clearing waivers. Which if he does, then the Rook would revert back to the season-ending injured reserve list. However, realistically, I'm not sure he was going to make the roster anyway, yet to be fair, there were reports of him potentially pushing for that 3rd tight end spot. So either way, that spot is still up for grabs. Granted, the Birds did end up just using that extra spot to sign former Jets tight end Kevin Folch off of waivers. And in case you're not familiar with Folch, he's a former undrafted rookie with the Carolina Panthers who was then waived and picked up by the Jets, as the Division II New Jersey native ended up making the Jets' 90-man roster but was then just recently cut. Of course, during his time at the University of New Haven, he was dominant when he was used, because as Bleeding Green Nation pointed out, his stats weren't all that impressive, with a 6'4", 250-pound tight end only recording 191 yards on 25 catches, with 5 of those resulting in touchdowns. Okay, clearly that leaves a bit to be desired, but maybe the less than stellar numbers were due to his offense not throwing the ball much. Either way, the fact that he couldn't stick around in Carolina and then also the same thing for New York makes me think this is probably not a long-term play and really just a camp body. But it's at least worth pointing out since CJ Uzomah has reportedly not looked that great. Okay, you might be asking at this point, Josh, why on earth are we talking about tight end 3? Why does it matter so much? And, well, I mean, it's not necessarily vital yet, but seeing how Kellen Moore gets his tight ends involved drastically more than what we've seen in Sirianni's offense, and knowing Goddard's injury history, it shouldn't be overlooked for the willingness to use 2 tight end sets and the potential that your 3rd string guy could eventually end up being your 2nd string. So we'll see who ends up coming out on top, but at least as of right now, according to Brandon Lee Gowton, a different former Jets tight end, and E.J. Jenkins has shown the most juice out of any tight end behind Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra. So worth monitoring that battle as camp goes along. But overall, the Eagles' open practice was lit, and I think it's pretty obvious this squad just has a different aura about them, which is why you can't help but smile seeing the squad's reaction when C.J. Gardner-Johnson was given a shot to cancel a team meeting and doing just that. I mean, it's not really surprising though, is it? What, with CD Deuce's number 8 Mamba mentality? Yet surprisingly, or maybe unsurprisingly, Nick Sirianni didn't exactly see it coming.
Chauncey in particular, he didn't. We had an important meeting that day, and they were all shooting beforehand. The guys are really connecting in that team. Right before the team meeting, there's a little bit of a break, and I noticed, guys are in there hanging out. Guys are in there shooting. We have a PlayStation in there. Guys are, before when they have downtime, they're hanging out. You can't substitute connecting without, spending time together. You can't, you got to spend time together. So they're in there, and Chauncey hadn't made a shot. He wasn't even close. So we really needed our meeting, and they were having a good time. I'm like, you know what? Let's put something on this. Hey, meetings are, the team meeting's canceled if Chauncey makes this, and he drilled it. So I don't know if he hustled me. He might have been hustling me. But he hit the shot. Guys went crazy.
I know it's basketball and hardly any translation or at least direct translation to the role here, but still, this is the swag and the vibes and everything else that the team needed. Plus, who else would you expect more to step up for the team in that moment? Although, for those of you freaking out saying the squad should get back in there and do the team meeting, especially with how last year ended, CJ's done with last year.
Let's address this. I'm not talking about nothing in the past, about no trades, no previous. There's nothing about what's going on now. Ain't simple. But right now, I feel like our team getting better. I'm not worried about what happened last year. It's a new team, new year, new roster, new yearbook. So we just worry about focus on getting better day by day and just understanding who we are. So we go out there and compete and go out there for our main goal. That's compete for a Super Bowl.
Look, it's not like it's not top of mind for them, but I think as most of us know, you have to have fun to end up building that chemistry. Because sure, when you're losing, no one's having fun. But just like we saw, even when they were winning last year, it mostly looked stressful and no joy around the building.
Absolutely not.
Zero fun, sir.
All right.
Well, maybe that's why Philly hired a director of joy in Reggie the dog. Like I've said, there's no denying there's more smiles and confidence and really just flat-out belief in the building. Just like the belief that Sirianni has in Mekhi Becton, saying the Mountain had a good showing at the public practice on Thursday, but there's also still a long ways to go at the right guard spot. However, with Tyler Steen likely out for at least a couple more weeks, and Lane Johnson recently sharing that he'd love to have an idea of who he'll play next to so that he can get meaningful reps and build chemistry ahead of the regular season, it's a given that Becton's going to get all the chances in the world to secure that spot. Except, well, Sunday's practice resulted in another right guard for Lane to get used to, with Becton showing up wearing a leg sleeve as the numerous media reports came piling in that Mekhi could be injured.
Okay, it's happening. Everybody stay calm.
What's the procedure, everyone? What's the procedure?
Stay calm.
Whoa. Thankfully, it turned out that Becton was just dealing with an illness. I mean, no offense to Brett Toth, but that is not the answer for the Birds if they want to have a dominant success on the O-line. Although he did win one or two matchups against Jalen Carter. And look, I understand the idea of rookie Trevor Keegan as another type of possibility, except the Rook was manning the left guard spot, with Landon Dickerson still slow to return from the knee injury. Also, I saw several comments asking about the concern for depth at that spot, and while, I mean, yes, there's still a little bit of concern naturally with the injuries, I don't know of any team that wouldn't be sitting pretty here at this point of having three of your best guards out with injury. I mean, I think it always comes down to injuries for any team, but especially for our squad. I mean, if you ask me what's the main derailer for this group, it's injuries. So at least hopefully you can stay healthy. There's plenty of time. We can all relax. But having heard this, talking about the O-line, how are you feeling about the depth? Speaking of injuries, though, another potential starter in Parris Campbell missed practice as he was also wearing a sleeve on his right leg. Except his actually had to do with a groin injury, unlike Becton's. And while hopefully he can return quickly, the consistent message from Jalen has been pretty clear.
Hey, you think you can? Fearless? Yeah, absolutely. You got some shit you're gonna worry about, but you have to check yourself. Yeah. You're either gonna pray or you're gonna worry. You can't do both. God got it. God know I work too. Shouldn't be to fear when you already put the work in. I come ready.
Just FYI, that was not actually in reference to Campbell's injury, but it is relevant because Jalen actually gave that same advice to Johnny Wilson. After all, the 6'6", 235-pound receiver continues to have one of the best and most impressive camps for a rookie by continually making plays and creating mismatches. Obviously, that's not a surprise to Jalen since he got Wilson and some of the other guys together to work on routes, provide coaching, and help learn their playbook right before camp. Which you can clearly tell because the walking mismatch continues to get more playing time with the ones, especially in the red zone, as the 23-year-old was certainly noticeable during the Eagles' open practice on a few plays. So yeah, now with Parris Campbell's sideline, Johnny's workload is about to increase quite a bit, something the Rook's completely ready for thanks to his improvement.
Put in some work in the offseason with Jalen, some of the other guys, and, just building up those reps and that connection with everybody, just the whole depth chart of receivers. It's been great getting some of those first team reps and just trying to keep on building day in, day out.
What are some of the benefits you see from the work you put in with Jalen in the offseason to translating over now to the practice field?
I feel like trust and connection with your quarterback and even the other receivers is just big on being able to make plays and being able to trust each other, know where everyone's going to be at the right spot at the right timing, and I feel like that played a big part in just everybody's connection this camp.
By the way, that's also what wide receiver coach Aaron Moorhead has noticed, saying early in camp Johnny had to be coached hard, but he responded, while also saying there were times in college where Johnny got tired and he slowed down on the field, but he's on a different level now. I mean, come on, who doesn't love to hear that about your wide receiver 3, especially a rookie, and it's no wonder that Kellen Moore is giving him more looks in this offense. And kudos to those of you who called it early, but Wilson's going to be a nightmare in this red zone attack. Because if you've got a plan for Jalen and his dual threat ability, plus AJ, Smitty, Goddard, and Saquon, it'd be very easy for a defense to overlook Johnny. Now, hear me out, I'm not saying he's going to have a season of 700 yards, or who knows, maybe not even 500 yards. But the fact that he's a unique weapon that creates all kinds of mismatches makes life easier for all the other guys in the offense, which is something Devonta loves to have.
He's a big guy, has a huge catch radius, and he's young, but he's learning fast. And I think as being an older guy now, just trying to, bring him along, bring everybody along, all the young guys, Anais, all those guys, bringing them along and, trying to show them the right way to do things.
Again, it definitely says something when you've got Jalen talking about you and now Smitty coming out and saying that, but where are y'all with wide receiver 3? Is it going to be Johnny Wilson? Is it going to be Parris Campbell? Or is it going to be a wide receiver 3 by committee? Also, speaking of the starters, we didn't have too many surprises, with Brandon Lee Gowton sharing the first team defense for 11-on-11s being Isaiah Rodgers at cornerback with Slay, Quinyon Mitchell in the slot, and then Devin White and Zack Baun at linebacker. Now, I understand Sirianni praise is to be taken with a grain of salt, but the fact that he brought up Baun without being asked specifically about him at least means something.
I wanted to mention this guy, another new addition to our team that I think brings an element of toughness with the way he plays, with his motor, with the way he strikes blocks, is Zack Baun. And it shows not only in his, on the defensive side, but it also shows during special teams. Like, this guy is a tough dude that plays with great detail and great passion for this game with physicality.
I think it was already a given, but the common denominator continues to kind of verify who the starters will actually be. Of course, I'm with you in that the defense didn't and hasn't played great recently. Yes, I understand the defense can only go so hard in training camp. Yet you'd like to see maybe a turnover or two just to shake things up. However, the offense seemed to pick up where they left off on Thursday, with the SP sharing the action, getting started with Britton Covey making an awesome diving catch from Jalen, as he was also getting some first-team reps rotating with Johnny Wilson. By the way, that was with Quinyon Mitchell in coverage on that route. And I know it's still early, but it's really starting to feel like Covey's got a spot on the roster locked up, based on the plays he's made in camp and his security on special teams. Having said that, despite the impressive play from Covey, it was Devonta Smith who made the play of the day, which, yeah, it feels like a regular saying at this point. With Chris Franklin sharing, Smitty made a great sideline catch over Tyler Hall, with Smith walking the tightrope along the sideline. But thanks to impressive body control and an absolute dot from Jalen, the offense was able to hit the big play. Of course, Fangio had to try and get Jalen's timing off somehow, so he actually tried to blitz QB1 with Nakobe subbing in, and it worked, creating the sack. At the same time, on the reverse of that, let's not freak out because there's one sack given up. Again, we had 2 backup guards in there. Yet I will say, kudos to Nakobe for his blitzing prowess, because he's actually done fairly well in that area. It's just that his coverage continues to get worked, with Brooks Cabina pointing out that Nakobe is frequently a tad behind in coverage, which is maybe why Fangio turned to Jeremiah Trotter Jr. then, with the Rook taking over and almost immediately making a great play against the run. And shout out to Martin Frank for pointing this out, but the Axeman actually ended up getting reps with the first team, where on a later rep he gave Grant Calcaterra a good shot to bring him down after the catch. Granted, he still gave up the pass, but multiple reporters said he had a really strong showing. In fact, on one particular instance, Trotter got so amped up when he was chasing a play to the sideline that right as Will Shipley caught the pass, Trotter shoved the running back, sending him flying off his feet and nearly crashing into the giant TV screen showing the action. Not gonna lie, I love the intensity, but even Trotter said afterward that he kind of got caught up in the moment, a little bit too intense, and he kind of apologized to Will Shipley.
Look, I'm really sorry about that. I saw how aggressive you were being, and I thought, wow, I gotta go even bigger than that.
Anyway, while Trotter Jr. has been stealing some of those reps on defense, it's Tanner McKee who's getting even more second-team reps on offense. After a couple beat writers shared that McKee's been getting action over Kenny Pickett in some instances to see how he's able to manage the offense, with some even going as far to say McKee is outplaying Pickett. I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far since we haven't got to a game yet. Granted, yes, I'm not actually there at practice and going based off of reports, but still, I mean, it's at least a storyline worth noting. Yet the optimistic view is that at least the competition should only make both players better. And that's working that way for Quinyon Mitchell too, as the Rook's been impressive in coverage, but finally got a chance to go up against Smitty, with the Eagles using quite a bit of motion to get Devonta in the slot, where then on the first play, shout out to Brooks Cabina as well, but Smitty got loose on a deep hitch. However, Q responded by locking up 6 on the next play along the sideline, and then apparently he wasn't afraid to say something to the Slim Reaper afterward.
So today was the first day I actually went against him, and I got open, I caught the ball, and he told me my route was trash. So I'm like, I like it though, I like it. He's a great guy. I like what I'm seeing. I like to see him, he's moving around a lot, playing inside, going outside. So the versatility is there.
Y'all know I'm a fan of letting him hear it, but the bigger point of this is actually Q getting confident. You can start feeling that he's comfortable in this, and he's actually not afraid to say something to Smitty. Plus, it's great to see him not back down from a challenge, which is similar to what we've seen from Kelee, Ringo, and Isaiah Rodgers, with Devonta sharing the difference of what each guy brings to the table.
I'd say Isaiah is more instinctive. He's a fast guy. He's going to pick up on the little things you do. You turn early in a route, he's going to pick up on it. Versus Kelee, he's a more physical guy. Both are very fast guys. So you have to, run out of your routes and things like that because they cover ground really fast. But Keelee's more a physical guy.
For real, I can't wait for their first preseason game to see how these guys are fighting for that starting spot. Like, they're obviously both trying to make a name for themselves, but as we all know, it's nice to have the extra depth there. Just like it's great to have the depth on the defensive line, with Milton Williams having one of his best practices constantly generating pressure. And then on one specific play, the DT hustled down the line and got his hand up to make Jalen Hurts throw really difficult and end up altering the pass. And sure, naturally, there's been talks of contract extension with a former third-round pick, but it does feel like, Howie, the way he does business, it would have already gotten done if it was going to happen. But where are y'all at, though? Do you think Howie should actually get this extension done now? Like, it's no secret the middle runs through Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, with the Breadman making a few nice plays against the run and generating more pressure as well. I know, that's just like a given at this point. However, it was Moro Ojomo who had the day of camp for the D-line, as Bleeding Green Nation pointed out that the second-year defensive tackle had multiple pressures, including one rep where he actually sacked Pickett by falling on him. FYI, yes, you're right. Typically, they don't actually tackle the quarterback, but per those in attendance, Moro Ojomo had so much momentum and made such a great play that he really just couldn't help himself and ended up tackling Pickett. He also registered a tackle for loss by getting Ty Davis-Price in the backfield, which is exciting, but no surprise to Johnny Page saying Moro Ojomo could be an important role player for the Eagles this season, since he obviously showed flashes last season against the run, and as Johnny pointed out, is great at playing the gap and a half technique in the run defense. Plus, he's proven to have a great ability to beat double teams and make stops in the ground game. At the same time, he didn't show stellar ability to rush the passer last year, however, to get that rep against Pickett is great news and hopefully a sign of things to come for the 22-year-old. And let's be honest, he's got one of the best players to learn from.
I mean, I think Jalen is a brilliant football player. I think that Jalen Carter has tremendous football IQ, whether it's set someone up with power here, and then I go to like quickness, or he sees the lean of the offensive lineman. Jalen Carter has some of the best football IQ I've been around.
I'm telling you, if you're like a little bit concerned about the D-line, then you should probably just relax because it's going to be fine. Heck, even though a lot of the defense had its struggles so far, pressuring the quarterback hasn't been an issue up to this point in camp. For example, the Inquirer's Jeff McClain shared of an instance when Tanner McKee was dropped in the backfield by Nolan Smith on a zone read. But yeah, you're right, that's probably never going to be called for Tanner in a game-like situation. However, Nolan also registered another sack later on a surprise zero blitz dialed up by Fangio. I mean, even Bryce Huff got in on the action by picking up a sack on one play thanks to another blitz call. Unfortunately, though, that was one of the few bright spots for Huff, with head cracks pointing to a couple instances where he struggled to get past Mailata, and then another time when Huff was blocked out of the play by tight end CJ Uzomah, with Agent Zero so frustrated that he threw Uzomah to the ground after being driven backward. And then Uzomah got up and did a little fist pump. And sure, he's getting frustrated, we probably want to see more from Bryce Huff, but it's not really the moment to sound the alarms just yet. Also, a couple other notable areas on defense, Ben Van Sermon even got a few reps with the ones and a lot with the twos, as he flew in to hit Lou Nichols near the line of scrimmage, resulting in some praise from the defense. And then Brandon Lee Gowton shared that James Bradbury delivered a hit on Britton Covey to jar the ball loose as the wideout was trying to hold on. Definitely not worthy of a boo, but I am curious if JB can play bigger in a game. Kind of like Sirianni described running back Will Shipley, saying the Rook plays big, and then following it up, saying that he reminds him a lot of Danny Woodhead. Of course, no matter how you feel about that, Kellen Moore's almost assuredly got some significant plans for the runner. Yet it's a different one that Reuben Frank believes is in line for a big role. With Reuben admitting the longer camp goes on, the more convinced he is Kenny Gainwell is going to have a significant role in the offense. Which does make some sense considering Kenny G had an impressive open practice and has shown flashes in other practices as well. Plus, when you look back at 2019, as Rube points out for Zeke's biggest season in Dallas with Moore as the offensive coordinator, Tony Pollard still got 7 touches per game and had 562 scrimmage yards. Oh yeah, I don't know if this means anything, but add on top of that the similarity of Tony Pollard and Kenny Gainwell both played together at Memphis, and Rube argues it'd be understandable to utilize Gainwell for one to keep Saquon fresh, but also taking advantage of some extra motivation Kenny might have in a contract year. I'm not totally opposed to that idea because after all, how many times do we see a player have his best year in a contract season? But having said that, I mean, Will Shipley is probably your long-term, more of your future type of player with Saquon, so not really sure that I want that. I mean, you can kind of balance it out, but where are you guys at, especially with Kenny G and Will Shipley for the role in the offense? Oh yeah, and while I'm still not hitting the panic button yet, how are you feeling about the offense dominating again? As Jalen had another day without any interceptions, with on-the-money throws and keeping up his 85% completion percentage. And according to ESP, Jalen's gone 88 throws without an interception. I mean, it's honestly like a different universe with his confidence level, and I'm here for it. Plus, you'll love this, even with the offense doing so well, Devonta Smith and Britton Covey, along with a couple other guys, stayed after practice to get in some more work on the jugs machine. Like, come on, you're crazy if you don't see or feel the difference with this team. Also, that intensity level may only ratchet up, with Sirianni hinting at another practice coming up with the same type of feel from the open practice. Anyway, we got 3 more days of practice coming up in a row, so make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn the notifications on so you don't miss anything. Until next time, this has been the Philly Special.